They launch a question like a poisoned arrow, crafted to find a weakness, to force a reaction, to see you bleed your composure. The common man rushes to pull it out, to explain the wound, to fight back in a panic. The master does nothing. He allows the arrow to fall short, watching it land harmlessly at his feet. For he understands that the deadliest poison is not in the arrow, but in the compulsion to react to it. This is the first lesson in mastering the strategic power of the void. The world teaches you that communication is strength, that clarity is kindness, and that a question demands an answer. This is the conventional path, a wide and well-trodden road that leads directly into ambushes set by others. Consider the common interpretation of the unanswered question. It is seen as a weapon of offense, a tool for the petty tyrant of social dynamics. There is the ghoster, who vanishes not from a position of strength, but from a terror of confrontation, leaving a trail of confusion they mistake for power. Their silence is not a strategy, it is a retreat. They believe they are creating a void in another's mind, yet they are merely fleeing into a void of their own cowardice. Then there is the passive aggressor, who withholds a response as a form of punishment. They deny closure to an opponent in an argument, believing that by not offering the last word, they have won. This is a hollow victory. They remain mentally tethered to the conflict, constantly checking to see if their silence has had the desired effect. They have not moved on. They are a prisoner pacing the walls of their own resentment, mistaking the cage for a throne. In the realm of attraction, the amateur strategist uses ambiguity as a cheap parlor trick. They believe that by being an enigma, a puzzle with a missing piece, they will become irresistible. But this is not the creation of depth, it is the performance of it. It is a fragile mask that shatters the moment a genuine demand is placed upon it. All these approaches share a fundamental fatal weakness. They are reactive. They are an answer to an external stimulus. Their success, as perceived by the user, is entirely dependent on the other person's discomfort, anxiety, or obsession. They are still playing the other person's game, fighting on terrain chosen by the enemy, and most critically, expending their own precious energy to manage a perception. They seek to project an image of power, but the true strategist seeks to embody its substance. The path of the common man is to use the void as a tool to manipulate others. The path of the master is to understand the void as a state of being that makes manipulation impossible. The great general Sun Tzu teaches the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. This single principle illuminates the chasm between the amateur and the master. A provocative question, a baited inquiry, an accusation disguised as a query. These are not requests for information. They are invitations to a battle. They are a summons for you to descend from your high ground of composure and fight in the mud of their emotional turmoil, using their weapon of choice, words fueled by reaction. The strategist understands that the greatest victory is the one won without a fight. Therefore, he simply declines the invitation. His refusal to answer is not an act of aggression, nor is it a sign of weakness. It is a strategic decision born from profound strength. It is the recognition that no one can force you to enter a battle you do not choose. The void, in the hands of a master, is not a space of anxiety you inflict upon another. It is the silent, unbreachable citadel of your own mind. It is a fortress of inner calm, of unshakable sovereignty. The frustration, confusion, and anxiety the other person feels is not something you have created. It is a storm of their own making, crashing against the impenetrable walls of your peace. You do not send them into the void. You simply refuse to allow them to pull you out of your center. True power is not the ability to disturb another's peace of mind. It is the unwavering ability to protect your own. The strategist observes the poisoned arrow of their question as it flies, tracks its arc, and watches it fall, spent and useless, upon the ground. He does not need to catch it, deflect it, or fire one in return. His energy is conserved. His position is uncompromised. His mind remains clear, a placid lake reflecting the sky, unrippled by the stone they attempted to throw into it. This is the beginning of wisdom, to see a question not as a demand, but as data. It reveals the sender's intention, their emotional state, their strategy. And the most powerful response to this data is often a deliberate, calm, and absolute silence. For the doubt planted by your silence is a weapon the enemy wields against himself. Your refusal to engage becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront their own intentions, their own agitation. The void they experience is of their own creation. Comment, "I command the silence to embody this principle," and subscribe for the coming lessons on the art of invisible warfare. You have learned to recognize the poisoned arrow and to refuse the invitation to battle. Now, we move from recognition to understanding. To master the void is to master the fundamental principles of a war fought not with steel, but with stillness. It is an architecture of power built upon three pillars, ancient and unshakable as the mountains themselves. The first of these is the mastery of terrain. Sun Tzu teaches that a wise general chooses his battlefield, for the ground upon which a war is fought often determines its outcome before the first blow is ever struck. A provocative inquiry, a question laced with accusation, is a summons to abandon your position. It is an invitation to descend from the high ground of your composure into the treacherous, swampy lowlands of their choosing, a territory of emotional reaction, tangled justification, and defensive explanation. In this low terrain, the air is thick with ego. The footing is uncertain. Every move you make to defend yourself only mires you deeper in their narrative. To answer the question, "Why are you so quiet?" is to concede the premise that your quietness is a problem to be solved. To explain your actions is to validate their right to demand an explanation. The moment you engage, you have surrendered your altitude. The strategist, however, never cedes the high ground. His non-response is not passivity. It is an active, resolute defense of his position. He understands that from his unassailable perch of calm observation, he sees everything clearly. The trap they have laid, the emotional bait they have used, and the path to a victory that requires no movement at all. He forces them to fight an uphill battle. They must expend their energy shouting their questions into the wind, scaling the cliffs of your indifference, while you remain untouched, conserving your strength. Your silence is a declaration. I will not fight you there. If you wish to engage, you must ascend to my level of discipline. You must meet me here on the ground of reason and calm, ground you are currently incapable of reaching. Most will exhaust themselves long before they reach the summit. The second pillar is the principle of formlessness. The master strategist, Sun Tzu, wrote, is subtle, even to the point of formlessness, mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. A direct response, a detailed explanation, a passionate defense, these things give you form. They create a solid object upon which your adversary can launch their attack. Your words become a handle they can grasp, a wall they can strike, a target they can aim for. Once your justification is spoken, it can be dissected, twisted, and used as a weapon against you. Your reasoning becomes the very evidence they cite to prove their point. You have presented a fixed object, and in a battle of perception, a fixed object is always vulnerable. The master, by refusing to answer, remains amorphous. He is like water, which cannot be grasped, or smoke, which cannot be struck. The opponent lunges forward with their verbal sword, expecting to meet the resistance of a shield, but their blade cuts through empty air. They swing again and again, their frustration mounting with each fruitless effort. The void you have permitted is the direct consequence of your formlessness. It is the palpable emptiness where a target was supposed to be. Their agitation is the sound of their own force striking nothing, the echo of their own aggression in a silent chamber. You have denied them a purchase. They cannot engage you because there is nothing to engage. This is a profound shift in the dynamics of power. The conventional mind seeks to build stronger walls, to craft cleverer arguments. The strategic mind understands it is far superior to have no walls at all, to be so intangible that the very concept of an attack becomes absurd. You do not win the argument. You transcend it. You make the conflict irrelevant by refusing to solidify into an opponent they can recognize. They are left alone in the arena, sword in hand, shadow boxing with their own assumptions. The third, and perhaps most potent pillar, is the economy of energy. The human mind is a force of nature, and like nature, it abhors a vacuum. When you decline to fill a space with a response, you create a psychological void. This void is not passive, it is an active, pulling force. The undisciplined mind of the questioner, desperate for resolution and meaning, will rush to fill that emptiness itself, and it will not fill it with generous interpretations. It will fill it with the raw materials of its own psyche, its deepest fears, its most persistent insecurities, its most paranoid projections. Your silence becomes a blank canvas, and they will paint upon it a masterpiece of their own undoing. They will ask the question for you, and they will answer it for you a dozen different ways, each more elaborate and exhausting than the last. Did I offend them? Are they plotting against me? They must think I am a fool. This silence is a confirmation of my guilt. Their mind becomes the battlefield, and their own thoughts become the opposing army. They are now locked in a civil war, a conflict that consumes immense quantities of mental and emotional energy. This is the ultimate expression of strategic efficiency. You have expended nothing, you have remained perfectly still, a silent observer to the conflict. You have outsourced the entirety of the labor of the battle to your opponent. The strategic power of an unanswered question is not that it harms them, but that it compels them to harm themselves. Their energy drains away, not from your attacks, but from the relentless friction of their own internal narratives grinding against one another. You have conserved your forces completely, while they have exhausted their reserves fighting a war against a phantom they constructed in your image. This is the art of winning by allowing the opponent to defeat themselves, the highest and most elegant form of strategy. They are left weakened, confused, and drained, not by your actions, but by the inevitable consequence of their own undisciplined mind being confronted by your unshakable peace. You now understand the terrain, the advantage of formlessness, and the profound economy of allowing an opponent's mind to become its own battleground. But these external strategies are hollow shells, without the forging of an unbreakable inner core. The principles of invisible warfare are useless to a commander who cannot first win the war within himself. This is the domain of the psychological battlefield, where the first and most crucial victory must be secured. Sun Tzu observed, "To know your enemy, you must become your enemy. Before you can master the void for others, you must confront the void within you." The urge to respond to a provocation is not a sign of strength. It is the outcry of a fragile ego. It is the desperate need for validation, the craving to be understood, the compulsion to correct a perceived injustice. It is the voice of pride, demanding to have the final word. It is the sting of anger, demanding release. It is the tremble of impatience, demanding resolution. These are not your allies. They are traitors within your own camp, saboteurs ready to hand the keys of your inner citadel to the first person who knocks with hostile intent. The true strategist engages in a relentless campaign against these internal insurgents. He cultivates a state of radical self-possession. The first triumph is over the desperate compulsion to explain. You are not obligated to offer a map of your mind to every traveler who demands it. Your reasons are your own. They are your sovereign territory. To feel you must justify your silence is to believe, on some level, that your peace is conditional upon another's approval. The master eradicates this belief. His tranquility is unconditional. The second conquest is over the impulse to retaliate. A baited question is a glove slapped across your face, an invitation to a duel of honor. The ego screams to accept the challenge, to prove your worth, to strike back with a clever retort that will leave the opponent wounded. The strategist simply lets the glove fall to the dust. He has nothing to prove. His honor is not a fragile thing to be defended in petty squabbles. It is an intrinsic quality, unaffected by the opinions of the agitated. His victory is not in winning the duel, but in recognizing it as a foolish game he has no time to play. This internal dominion is the source of all external power. It is a profound, unshakable equilibrium that transforms your very presence. From this foundation of inner mastery, you begin to shape the perceptions of the world around you, not through active manipulation, but as an inevitable consequence of your own state of being. The strategist is not concerned with being liked or disliked, feared or loved. These are fleeting emotional currencies for the common man. The strategist deals in a more stable, more powerful currency, respect born from unpredictability and control. By consistently refusing to be drawn into emotional skirmishes, you begin to project an aura of profound composure. Your calmness in the face of provocation is deeply unsettling to those who rely on emotional leverage to navigate the world. They expect a reaction, a push for their pull, a shout for their shout. When they receive only placid stillness, their entire model of the world is disrupted. They cannot find a purchase on you. You become illegible, a text written in a language they cannot comprehend. This illegibility is a formidable weapon. People fear what they cannot understand and respect what they cannot control. Your silence does not communicate rudeness. It communicates that you operate according to a different set of rules, on a plane they cannot access. It signals that their emotional storms are to you merely weather patterns to be observed, not tempests to be caught in. This perception is not something you actively build, word by word. It is something that crystallizes around you, formed by the actions you don't take. It is the negative space that defines the object. Your refusal to engage in pettiness becomes a testament to your seriousness. Your conservation of energy in minor conflicts implies a vast reserve of power held for matters of true importance. You are perceived not as passive, but as deliberate, as a coiled spring, powerful in its stillness. This is the essence of Sun Tzu's maxim of appearing weak when you are strong. You are not broadcasting your strength with loud declarations or aggressive posturing. You are allowing others to infer your strength from your supreme self-control, a far more potent and lasting impression. Ultimately, this cultivated perception solidifies into a reputation, and that reputation becomes your silent vanguard. It is a shadow that precedes you, entering a room before you do, conditioning the interaction before a single word is spoken. This is the strategic culmination of your discipline. People learn. They observe that attempts to provoke you are exercises in futility. They see that emotional bait is left to rot on the hook. They realize that their dramas find no purchase on the smooth, hard surface of your composure. And so, they stop trying. They begin to approach you differently. Their tone changes, their inquiries become more direct, less loaded. They treat you with a certain caution, the kind reserved for a force that is understood to be powerful, but whose exact nature remains a mystery. Your reputation has done the work for you. It has filtered out the noise, preemptively disarmed the petty aggressors, and established the terms of engagement in your favor. You have created an environment where your energy is no longer required for defensive maneuvers. You have achieved a state of peace not by winning a series of individual battles, but by building a fortress so formidable that no one considers laying siege to it. This is the psychological mastery of the battlefield. It is a peace won not through conflict, but through the transcendence of conflict. Your inner state of calm has radiated outward, imposing its order on your immediate reality. You have not silenced your enemies. You have made it so the thought of shouting at you seems pointless. You have achieved a dominion that is quiet, total, and profound. You have observed the terrain, assumed the power of formlessness, and won the pivotal war within. Now, before we unveil how your stillness becomes the most definitive strike of all, ensure you are subscribed, for the ultimate peace is reserved for those who have mastered the art of not fighting. The battlefield is prepared. The opponent, agitated and fighting shadows, has exhausted their own resolve against the granite wall of your composure. The moment for the decisive action arrives. But this action is not what the world imagines. There is no sudden verbal assault, no clever counter-argument, no triumphant declaration. The decisive blow, according to the principles of the master strategist, is often indistinguishable from the silence that preceded it. It is the perfect execution of non-action at the moment of highest expectation. Sun Tzu wrote, "The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Your falcon is your silence, and its swoop is the conscious, deliberate choice to remain quiet at the precise instant your adversary most desperately craves a response. This is the culmination of your timing and observation. You have watched their emotional energy rise, you have felt the crescendo of their frustration, and at the peak of their demand, you offer them nothing. This is not an empty absence, it is a profound and deafening statement. This calculated stillness is the strike. It is the move that shatters their momentum completely. It breaks the rhythm of the conflict, denies their narrative its climax, and leaves them suspended in a state of unresolved tension of their own making. The attack is complete, the victory is total, and you have not moved a single muscle. You have not expended an ounce of energy. This is the genius of the void as a weapon. Its deployment is its conservation. It is the one strike in the arsenal of the strategist that leaves the wielder stronger than when they began. The enemy is not defeated by a superior force, but by the complete withdrawal of the force they expected to meet. They have prepared for a collision, braced for impact, and in that moment you simply step aside, allowing their own unchecked momentum to carry them tumbling into the abyss. With the decisive blow landed, the aftermath begins. This is where the amateur strategist makes his fatal error. He celebrates, he gloats, he seeks acknowledgement of his victory, thereby descending back into the very ego-driven world he briefly transcended. The master strategist does not celebrate, he simply observes. He watches the consequences of his decisive inaction unfold with the dispassionate curiosity of a natural scientist. The true victory is not the moment of the opponent's collapse, but the new reality that this collapse creates. The goal was never to humiliate or to dominate in the conventional sense. The goal was to restore equilibrium, to create a lasting peace on your own terms. Your silence has recalibrated the relationship. You have established an unbreachable boundary around your sovereignty. The strategist now consolidates this victory not through further action, but through consistent being. He maintains his state of calm. He does not bring up the past conflict. He does not say, "I told you so." He simply allows the new reality to solidify. His continued composure becomes the foundation of this new peace. Future challenges are deterred not by the memory of a painful defeat, but by the quiet certainty of your response, or lack thereof. Your reputation, now cemented by this decisive encounter, becomes a self-enforcing treaty. Potential adversaries understand that to engage you on the battlefield of emotional provocation is to sign up for a war they will wage entirely by themselves. This is the durable peace the strategist seeks. It is not a temporary ceasefire, dependent on the goodwill of others. It is a structural peace, engineered into the very fabric of your interactions, a peace born from the profound understanding that your energy is your most valuable resource, and you are its sole, undisputed commander. The throne you occupy is not built on the skulls of your enemies, but on the unshakable foundation of your own inner tranquility. We arrive, then, at the final philosophical truth of this art. The strategic power of an unanswered question is not, in its highest form, a tactic for dealing with others. It is a state of enlightenment. Leave them in the void is not a command to exile your antagonists to a psychological wilderness. It is an instruction to yourself to leave them outside the sacred void of your own serene consciousness. The ultimate power is not the ability to create a void of confusion in their mind, but the realization that you are under no cosmic obligation to fill the noisy void in yours with their distractions. It is the final emancipation from the tyranny of opinion, the liberation from the need to manage the perceptions of anyone but yourself. The supreme master of this art has no enemies because he refuses to create them by entering into conflict. He does not need to project power because he is its source. He walks through the world armored in a silence that is not empty but full of self-knowledge, discipline, and a peace that the chaotic world cannot comprehend and therefore cannot touch. The throne you have secured is not one of external dominion, but of internal sovereignty. It is the quiet, calm center of your own being, a place so profoundly peaceful that no question can disturb it, no provocation can reach it, and no conflict can ever touch it. This is the true void, the ultimate position of power, the silence that answers everything.